Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Enchain. Enchain is an indie game I originally played all the way back in 2022 when this channel was completely new. I did it on a stream where I played another 7 different indie games from Steam Next Fest, a idea that would eventually become a video series where we play 7 different games from every Steam Next Fest. And it is still ongoing to this day. Enchain itself was a movement shooter where you'd have to pick up objects to fling them into your enemies. I loved the concept, I loved the idea, I loved the map design, I loved almost everything about the game. So I decided when it got released in early access to pick it up. And I'm really happy to say it holds up really well for my memory. So let's get into it. So, what actually is Enchain? Enchain is a movement shooter. It's not just any movement shooter though, as while you have a wide variety of move sets that you can use, such as wall running, wall jumping, grappling enemies to you, getting shot out of cannons and flinging yourself across the map, sliding, gliding, all of that good stuff. It's also a game all about physics. You see, you gotta fling enemies into other enemies in order to kill them. In Enchained, it is not just enough that you hit an enemy or shoot an enemy for a little bit. You actively gotta fling them into a wall, into each other, into the floor, into something else for them to, well, die after you have stance broken them. You see, in Enchained, enemies have multiple health bars. They start off with the normal red one. When the red one is broken, then they freeze. Once you have broken the freeze health bar, they get flung into the air. This is why you can either grab them, you can punch them to put them further up, give them more momentum, or further damage their third health bar, or what I'd like to call the actual health bar. Once that is fairly broken though, or when you grab them, you can fling them across the map into an obstacle or another enemy, where you can either multi-kill the enemy, or sometimes you can just stance break them to continue the chain. And for some bosses and other fights, you will actively have to juggle multiple enemies while you're also juggling the boss in order to break that stance bar, which is made all the more difficult because all of the bosses universally have multiple health bars. This is a lot to take in and sounds super complicated when I'm explaining it, but actually it really isn't. When you're playing the game, it comes surprisingly fast and it feels surprisingly good. But what's the gameplay loop actually like outside of combat? Enchained is a very heavy exploration focused movement shooter. Now, if you've ever played a movement shooter, that can sound a little weird, but Enchained is essentially built up, and I shit you not, like a Souls game. There are multiple layers to every map that usually loop around each other into the main hub area, which has a lamppost that acts like a pseudo bonfire where you light it and then you have a checkpoint and you get all your health restored there. You will be exploring everywhere for different paths around the map, and there are a lot of them. Once you unlock the shop, you can also buy different weapons, which you can also find a few of around the map, including a cannon, which funnily enough is called a hand cannon. You see what I'm doing? You see what I'm saying? In addition to that, different exploration challenges also exist where you can interact with this skeletal arm to do some parkour challenge or whatever, as the main objective for you within Enchain is to collect different keys that are used to unlock the boss door of that specific area. As far as I know, there's roughly 4 bosses as of now in the Enchained early access. They are all fairly good though. The thing is with Enchained is that most of the boss fights are also built up like pseudo Souls encounters. You'll have to dodge and weave your way behind enemies, avoiding attacks, attempting to deflect certain attacks by attacking them when they're attacking you, hitting their weak point to then further build up that stun meter before you can fling them into the air. And doing that for a couple of times before you can, well, stance break them and eventually completely kill them. However, you don't just have to bounce around with your enemies with the melee attacks, as you have this lantern that you fling out that is acting like both your melee, your grappling hook, your grabbing hook, and also the thing that allows you to skateboard around on an enemy. You see, after you've grabbed an enemy, you can not just fling them across the map. You can also use your slide mechanic to put them underneath you and virtually use them like a sled, going faster and faster no matter how the surface looks. You can go Mach 5 on the flattest surface in the world. by just grabbing another skeleton, sitting on that bad boy and riding him into the sunset. You can do some crazy things with that. The faster it goes, the higher damage, at least that's how I think it works, but I'm not quite sure on that. But in general, it's pretty fun. However, you also have a pretty big arsenal of different weapons, including a shotgun, a blunderbuss, a flintlock pistol, a normal pistol, a sword and a shovel, and a crossbow and a chain minigun. And if any of that sounds cool, that is because it is. It's actually really cool. Surprisingly though, the most useful weapon of them all is the shovel. You see, the shovel has two different attacks. One where it just is used as a melee weapon. You know, the classic thing, you just bonk them across the head with your shovel. However, the secondary attack is a lot better, which is where you dig up a big old fireball and lob it at an enemy. That fireball can, matter of fact, act as a bit of terrain to bump other enemies into, meaning that you can do the stance breaking and the damaging using that shovel. How do you get the shovel? Well, it's the most expensive item in the shop, so it does take a little bit of grinding. However, it really doesn't feel all that necessary until the very end of the early access, where you're fighting a very big skeleton, and at some point it goes down slope and you're sliding and you need to hit him, and it can become hard if you don't have any more ammo left, which I didn't. Then you'd have to use something like the shovel, as it has infinite ammo. Another thing with the exploration though is that getting around can be a little difficult, especially at the beginning. Enchain is an incredibly fast game. You will have to go at Mach 5 to get anywhere. The maps are big, the parkour is hard. It is not an easy game by any means. And at times it can feel outright mean with the fact that it wants you, while you're doing wall sliding, to make a direct turn on the wall that you are at via jumping and then dodging onto the wall again, which when you say it out loud doesn't sound hard at all, but doing it in practice, that is actually kind of difficult. It does give you all the tools though to get the job done, even if it is incredibly difficult most of the time. However, in my opinion, it's just a little bit of the charm of the game. In general, Enchain is actually super charming. You play as a skeleton that has the ability to fight other skeletons. Everything seems to be some sort of gothic skeleton theme almost, with like one exception of some gargoyle grotesque enemy looking type of deals. But like most everything is just a skeleton. And I gotta admit, I fucking adore it. It looks like these very old polygon Kingsfield-ish style of graphics with just a slightly better resolution. Just turn that shit up and that's it. In my opinion, it has such a unique art style, and that includes its use of colors, especially early on where it's mostly these dark colors. I think it looks distinctive, unique, and genuinely interesting. It unironically really captures me, even though it's so simplistic. It's the same thing with the expression of your character. You are a skeleton. You don't get to see your face. It's a first-person game. However, when you pick up new bracelets, which is this game's rings, essentially buffs that you can put on your character, they actually appear on your arm. You can see which buffs you are having by just looking at your arm, and if somebody has played a lot of Enchain, they could recognize that by just watching the video or watching you playing. They could see that you're using the sunflower charm or whatever. It's genuinely super cool. I think stuff like that just puts me in the world. I fucking love it. Genuinely such a banger idea. Another thing about the game that genuinely is really good is just the soundtrack. It goes from having this breakcore theme in combat that encourages you going faster. It almost builds into it. You want to go faster at the pace with the music, to a much slower theme when you're exploring, when you're trying to find all the hidden secrets and other stuff, new weapons or new areas and so on. And I honestly really appreciate the transitions between those two. It's not something that I notice often, and that's partially because it is a background thing for most games. But when a game is this intense during its intense moments and this relaxed during its relaxed moments, I notice that sort of thing. And it all works together to create this really good atmosphere where, genuinely speaking, I got lost multiple times. Just vibing around, wall sliding, ninja wall jumping my way through a map, trying to look for different secrets. And 9 times out of 10, that paid off. If you've been here for a while, it probably doesn't come as a surprise that I love secret hunting. But I love secret hunting, and Enchain does it really well. You see, when I purchased this game in early access, I didn't expect much more than just another area added to the demo, but it just kept going. Whenever I thought I was about done, there was something new. Then I went to a swamp, and then from the swamp, where I learned that I could water skip with my own body, like the thing that people usually do with stones, I could do with the skeleton body. You could go to a mountain and climb the mountain to find a boss fight up there. However, I also learned that you can go another way to fight a secret boss fight, where you fight a giant skeleton in armor called Exoskeleton with a giant fuck-off sword that looks like the Dragon Slayer from Berserk that after you defeat him you then get. It was within the same time frame that I was exploring one of the beginning areas and find a little crack in a wall that I hadn't noticed before. I decided to try to get into it, and lo and behold, when I jump in there, I find an entire new area that I'd never seen before called the Chasm. In that area, there's this water layer to it that if you fall down, you take a bit of damage and you essentially respawn. But after exploring it for a little bit, doing a lot of parkour, a lot of grappling and wall climbing and so on, I find a lever that I can pull to drain the entire area. And now while the area in general does seem a little unfinished in the sense that I genuinely either missed something or there's something more to it, there was a hand cannon, a literal cannon for my hand. Not just as in a big old fuck off gun that I can shoot. No. This was a thing that I could use while I'm using my chain in one hand. I can have my cannon in the other, and it would use normal bullets like my handgun. Fucking insane stuff. Just scattered there. I love this sort of thing. It is such a vibe. An entire area in the chasm is so colorful in comparison to the rest of the game. I genuinely felt like I was at the bottom of the sea along with SpongeBob out here. It looked so good. Just so good in general. And while there isn't a lot, and with a lot I mean like 20 hours of content in Enchain, as of now for me there was roughly 7 including AFK time, it's still a good game. I'd still play it again, honestly. I think it's really good, is the long and short of it. And I genuinely do recommend it. I'm really happy to see that it didn't just hold up to what I thought it would from back when I played it the first time, but it way exceeded my expectations. Now, if I were to be a little critical of it though, I will say it doesn't explain its mechanics super well, partially because I'm not the big tutorial reader and partially because the tutorial is given to you through these signs that you can walk up to and read. And like, I get that that's my fault, but having an easier way of learning it would be kind of nice, I'd say. But that's also honestly my really only complaint. I think the rest of the game worked pretty well. I ran into like one bug in my 7 hours of playing it and exploring all of the zones. There was like one thing I could point to and be like, that is most definitely a bug, and that is doing one of the very last fights within the demo. You are sliding down this like mountain-ish thing without trying to spoil too much. You then fall down, and if you fall down, which you don't have to necessarily, but if you do, you get stuck in a constant loop of just falling down and respawning and falling down. And like the only way to fix this is to restart the fight. But that's also just about it. There isn't like a lot of issues here or anything like that. And my hope is that I get to see more unique ways to move, more moves with the grappling hook. I love my little lantern grappling hook thing. It's so fucking cool. Like, genuinely just more game as a whole would be nice here. Because Enchain is completely unique. I've never really played anything quite like this where I can be like, this is like this other thing. Enchain combines so many different ideas from so many different games. It is hard to really put into words, but it's also so fun to play. From the exploration where it like spider webs onto itself to lead you back to the first area that like games like Dark Souls 1 excel at, to like the movement being so fast it could feel like a Doom game, specifically Eternal, and like the parrying and like the deflecting feeling incredibly good to pull off. So like there's the go flow of combat. It's really good all around. It's an incredible game that I genuinely highly recommend, especially if you have a PC. At the very least, go and give it a wish list if you are just mildly interested, because I can promise you, if anything I have said in this video sounds interesting or fun, then the actual game is gonna be better. But that's also about what I have to say about Enchain so far. Genuinely speaking, just hope for more game, but overall, very fun. I really recommend it. But I do have something else I want to talk to you about. For one, we reached 200 subscribers. Thank you so much for the support. It's been fucking wonderful, man. I do have some other ideas though going forward. You'll see a rebrand of the channel. Specifically, I'll be changing the name, and I'll also be changing the profile picture. In addition to that, I think I'm gonna make another channel that will run alongside this one, but I'll explain more about that when we get there. I just want to say for now though, thank you so much. Genuinely, I appreciate it. I appreciate you deciding to spend your time here watching my fat ass talk about games and things that I care about. It means the world. I don't have much more to say. Just thank you, man. I didn't ever really expect to be here, as corny as that sounds. But for now, that's about it. I hope you have a wonderful day ahead of you. Maybe night or morning, depending on where you are. Regardless, I hope you have a good time. I'll see you all later. Bye.